Wish TV. All Indiana Politics
is your premier source for Indiana politics.
Focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
And good morning, everyone. Thank you for watching All Indiana Politics. I'm Phil Sanchez. We're going to start this morning with a longtime state lawmaker who's retiring from the General Assembly, but not from politics. Republican Jim Merritt represented Marion and Hamilton counties in the Indiana Senate for 30 years. Before officially stepping down 1 month ago, he had been the longest current-serving Republican state senator, but his decision has launched speculation that he's looking to win a different office in the State House. And let's welcome in Jim Merritt now. Jim, always good to see you. Thank you for taking some time, sir.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Same to you. We'll start off with this question, something that I've been kind of thinking about for a while. Why leave the state legislature now?
Well, it's a combination of a lot of things. I think that we need new ideas in state government, and I think Senator Kyle Walker, who is going to replace me, is going to be an outstanding state senator. But more importantly for me, I'm ready to work on different projects, and I think I can do more outside the Senate than in, and so I was ready to kind of spread my wings and fly.
Okay, so since you opened up the door, what do you have in mind?
Well, I'm writing a book, and it's about mental health, and it's dealing with the working title is overwhelming. Because Indiana, in the beginning, 1816, was in charge of the insane. And then we went towards community mental health, and that's failed. And we have poverty, we have homelessness, we have hunger. And I'm going to be offering solutions to all those ills that are really attacking our city and our state now.
Specifically for the state of Indiana?
Yeah, and I think we will be taking a look at models around the country, as well as we'll be suggesting ideas for the country, because most of the states, all 50 states, have gotten away from places like Central State and Newcastle. And I'm also going to have a podcast, Jim Merritt's Indiana.
All right.
And we're going to tackle issues such as medical marijuana and as well as addiction. You know, I've worked hard in the opioid space. Sure. and trying to help those that are suffering from addiction. And so it's going to give me a lot of time to work on issues I care about.
Medical marijuana, one of those issues.
Explain. Well, I was never really able to speak out on that, and what I want to do is learn more about it. And there are 5 states that have legalized medical marijuana, and I want to find out why and what they did right and what they did wrong, and just take some time to study it and find out. When you've done as much work in the heroin space and killing heroin, as I call it, you know that that veterans and people that are suffering from an incredible pain might resort to opioids, and if that pain can be eliminated through medical marijuana in a prescription with high fences, if you will, high regulatory guidelines, let's take a look at it. But I want to learn more about it, and I'll be coming out with a podcast on it.
Okay, so you know a lot of people are going to watch this, Jim, and they're going to say this is a precursor to a run for the governor's office in 2024. What say you? I
have a lot of interest in running for governor in 2024. I think my experience, 30 years experience in the state Senate, being a business owner, my run for mayor, which didn't end up so well, I really feel like I can be a part of the future of Indianapolis and Indiana, and politics is in my blood, and I think the issues that I care about are integral in the future of the state of Indiana.
What would you think? What do you think the type of job that Governor Holcomb has done so far? What would you give him as a grade?
Well, I think it's been a very interesting 4 years for him. The last couple governors and the legislature has set up a framework where the governor has grown the state with jobs. For instance, water. We have 106 communities that are doing a lot better job with water management, and that's all because of Eric Holcomb's administration. So I think the administration's done an outstanding job of governing. This pandemic has tested us all, including Governor Holcomb. And I like to say that Indiana's made up of small communities, and John Mellencamp said it well, small towns. And that's a very difficult proposal to govern with the pandemic that we had. And I think that I can continue the momentum in 2024.
I was going to say, getting back to the coronavirus pandemic, your thoughts on how he's done governing under it?
I think he's done well. I think it's very difficult that Salem, Indiana, be considered alongside of the city of Indianapolis, or the state of Indianapolis. And so it's just difficult to say to a shop owner in Salem the same thing you're saying to somebody in the city of Indianapolis. And so these are trying times. There's no question about it. It's a tough job being governor of the state of Indiana. And I'm up to it. And we'll just see what happens, and they're going to wait until after the 2022 campaign is over and make some decisions then. But I'm going to be offering some suggestions in the next couple of years that I think are important for the future of the state of Indiana.
I have one more question about the governor, because you kind of brought it up and you dived into it a little bit, and that is, some people say that he's not done enough. Other people say he's gone too far, specifically with the mask mandate. Your thoughts?
I think it's all about communication. I think that it wouldn't be a wise thing to have a special session in the last 6 months, but and yet I think talking to legislators throughout the state of Indiana is just very, very important, and I would encourage the governor to do so in the coming months. And this legislative session is going to be one for the books, because they're not going to be able to have the transparency in person in committee hearings, and it's just going to be a really, really tough situation for the legislature and the governor, with not a whole lot of funds coming in to the general fund. You're talking about $30 billion plus for a 2-year budget. I'm
almost out of time. I have time for one more question. What will be the most difficult thing for the legislature come January, in your opinion?
I think getting a sense of being transparent and getting a sense from all 6.6 million Hoosiers, and also getting on the right wavelength with the governor on what an executive order should look like in the next pandemic, or the next situation that individual has to tackle, and getting on the same page with the governor. The General Assembly has quite the task, along with the governor.
Yeah. Jim Merritt, always good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. An Indiana senator calls for overturning every stone in the presidential election, while Mike Braun says it's necessary, even if it has no chance of changing the outcome. That's next on All Indiana Politics.
We used to have what was called Election Day. Now we have election days, weeks and months, and lots of bad things happened during this ridiculous period of time, especially when you have to prove almost nothing to exercise our greatest privilege, the right to vote.
Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. At least one Indiana senator is throwing his support to President Trump's push to uncover so far unsubstantiated claims of massive voter fraud. Republican Mike Braun wrote this op-ed in the Washington Examiner this week. He says the Trump campaign has found sufficient irregularities to merit further investigation, and that asking questions about mail-in ballots is not sour grapes over an election loss. He goes on to write, "If we don't turn over every stone in this election, there's little chance for the country to come together on anything." Our All Indiana Politics team asked him about those election claims.
William Barr yesterday said essentially there's no there as far as widespread fraud. Do you believe there's enough fraud to overturn this election? Is Joe Biden the president-elect? And if Republicans were that worried about the voting system, why not take an action before November to improve it?
Those are all valid points, and I think that that probably ideally should have been done. Don't know how much. This was an unusual year when you take the normal course of an election and you do throw many states into formats that were not familiar. I think that creates a proneness towards things maybe not going according to Hoyle. And I think that if you widespread and systemic, if you meaning that, I think that's going to be a hard case to make. But on the other hand, I think there's a lot of other stuff that probably needs to be checked into. I'll give you a few particulars. In states where you had a lot of absentee ballots, mail-in ballots, especially absentees where you have to request it, you ought to make sure that the requests lined up with the ballots that were actually cast. In places where signature verifications weren't adhered to in the way that you normally do. Those are items that would have been part of those 80 recommendations that came from a bipartisan commission. So that's my point. There are clear thresholds in terms of vote certifications. I think that is passed in most places, especially the 6 swing states that have been under scrutiny. And then the next would be when the Electoral College meets on December 14th. And if it's not made by then, that is when everyone is going to have to say, hey, the best effort was made to find this. If not, and even President Trump in the White House has said they'll do that. Does that mean he'll concede, go out without causing a ruckus? I don't know. But I think that's the turning point where, and if you don't pursue, overturn any stone that says there's something there, you're going to have half the country not satisfied with how the process was done.
Several state and federal judges have tossed out lawsuits connected to the Trump campaign, saying there is no evidence of widespread election fraud. Indiana Democratic Congressman Andre Carson has said President Trump's refusal to concede harms every American and hampers national security efforts.
We welcome back Democrat Drew Anderson and Republican Whitley Yates. Good to see you both. Thank you for spending some time with us once again. I want to start with Senator Braun's call for more investigations into election integrity. And Drew, you call this performative politics. What do you mean?
I mean, he is literally discrediting our democracy and our electoral system just to appease an insecure, outgoing president. And look, man, like, it's stated in the Constitution that we have elections and they are certified, and this election is certified. And so this stunt by Braun is disrespectful to the U.S. Constitution, to our democracy, and to the millions of voters in Indiana and across the country that cast their ballots for this election. And to coddle this president who just refuses to read the room just shows, quite frankly, that we can't trust him.
Whitley, your thoughts?
Wow, those are some pretty strong words from Drew. I think the Democrats have a short memory. In 2000, they were at the courts to investigate the 2000 election because they thought that there were some voter issues within that system. I think that it is very clear here with the wonderful job of Secretary of State Connie Lawson and the security of our election that we are obviously leading the way in this, but it is very critical that all legal votes are counted and that Americans have faith in the integrity of our election system. So that is very important. And so as the Democrats did in 2000 and as the Republicans and President Trump are doing right now, we are going to let this process play out and see where it goes.
But Whitley,
I think, go ahead, can I chime in for just a second? I think Whitley also fails to remember that it was not Donald Trump that won the popular vote. And the actual difference when it comes to the margins were far, far closer than what this election today showed. And it shows Joe Biden win by more than 5%.
Okay, well, in 2016, he didn't win the popular vote and still became president, Drew. Thank you.
Right, we do have an electoral process to be fair here. Now, Whitley, the call for election investigations, though, is that damaging the Republican brand? Why not say Donald Trump lost, people rejected him, but still chose Republican views for the House and Senate? I mean, For a lot of people out there, it's kind of easy just to say that. Why not the Republican Party?
I think what is important here is that what we've seen time and time again in years and years on both sides of the aisle is that when there is suspicion around an election or there have been issues and irregularities, that they are investigated. That is something that both parties have done consistently throughout history. I think asking the Republican Party and President Trump to do that and to just let bygones be bygones and settle when there have been irregularities that we've seen, specifically in Michigan, that's not fair. I think that there is a process, and we are going through the process now. And until the dust has settled and things have cleared, we are going to be in that process. It is not for the Republican Party to decide. It is no longer in our hands.
Drew?
I mean, the election's already been certified. Joe Biden has won. And speaking of, the Republicans take that they're fraudulent votes. I mean, there was a lawyer and a man down in Florida that was urging Republicans to move to Georgia to actually fraudulently vote in that special election. Right. So let's actually look at the facts here.
So a question for both of you. The Electoral College meets in just 8 days. Do you think the talk of the election integrity, is it going to die down after the Electoral College meets? Drew, we'll start with you.
I mean, I sure hope so. And it's just because the majority of voters and Americans and Hoosiers were ready to move on. The only person that doesn't want to move on is the guy in the White House and the senators like Mike Braun who want to coddle Tim.
Your thoughts, Whitley?
I think it'll ramp up even more and potentially add more fuel to the flames that have already been burning.
Let's bring it back a little bit more local. Big news came out on Friday. The state announcing that Elanco has chosen the former GM stamping plant site for its new headquarters. Whitley, some say this is a big win for the governor.
Absolutely. I think what we saw in this situation was a political tug of war between the city of Indianapolis, specifically Mayor Joe Hogsett, and with Ambrose Property Group, where they were overextending their reach. They weren't having limited governing thoughts, and they were trying to strong arm them into taking over this property. And what we see is with strong leadership, specifically from Governor Holcomb, that we have Elanco coming here. We have more jobs coming to Indiana. And this is a win not only for Indianapolis, but for the entire state.
Go ahead, Drew. I know you want to jump in on this one.
I know. I'm really, Whitley is right. It is a win for Hoosiers. It's a win for Joe Hogsett. It's a win for the democratically controlled city council. But taking a step back for a hot second, the reason why it's a win for Hoosiers, and it's because there was a study that came out about a week ago that showed that all those jobs that Holcomb and Pence and Daniels promised over the years, they were all low-paying jobs. They weren't high-paying jobs. And so these are actual good jobs that are coming to the city of Indianapolis, and it's because of Joe Hogsett.
Absolutely incorrect. It is not because Joe Hogsett. If it was up to the city, they were suing and they spent a lot of money going back and forth attempting to take this property from Ambrose Property Group. So the truth of the matter is, instead of allowing Ambrose as a private business to do what they were supposed to do, right, they tried to come in and take it. And so we know what happens when the city of Indianapolis has overreaching arms. And the truth is, I don't see anyone fighting for the Far East Side or Hallville. I don't see Mayor Hogsett attempting to take any land on those sides of town.
We nailed this job opportunity for the city of Indianapolis. And on top of that, it actually overrides the fact that Governor Holcomb and the Republican Party have failed to deliver high-paying jobs across this state. And it was all determined and justified by the study that came out more than a week ago.
All right, we'll move on from that. I can let you guys probably talk all day on that one. So we have about a minute left. We talked with Jim Merritt earlier. He said he's very interested in running for governor in 2024. On the Democratic side, Drew, do we have any candidates? And then the same question to you, Whitley, on the Republican side, other than, of course, Merritt. Go ahead, Drew.
I mean, Democrats are definitely going to step up for these races, especially the gubernatorial race. I will say for Jim Merritt, he has a lot of explaining to do, because over the last couple of years, he has morphed himself. He has flip-flopped on a lot of issues just to appeal to voters to win an election. And personally, for me, as a gay man, the guy has to actually come to terms with the fact that he flip-flopped on issues for the better, but he needs to actually apologize for even voting and pushing through something as destructive as RFRA was.
All right, Drew.
Go ahead.
Let's just let Willie jump in here. Go ahead, Whitley.
Once again, poor Drew and his short-term memory. When Hillary Clinton flip-flopped on her LGBTQ plus issues, or when President Barack Obama flip-flopped, I didn't hear much from the Democrats then. I think the truth is that what you're going to continue to see is strong Republican leadership in Indiana.
We're out of time, guys. I always love having you on. Thank you very much. Sorry. We got to go to commercial. Thank you, guys. See you soon. We'll be back. Thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9:30. Have a great day.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.